So yeah, I'm not very good at this, but I had to tell someone about this experience. I haven't told my friends, family, or boss because I cannot believe it myself. So let me start by letting you know I'm a pizza delivery driver for one of the major pizza chains here in the United States, and I work nights. Now, I've had my fair share of odd customers, drunkards, stoners, girls coming to the door and nearly nothing, but this delivery, God, I hope I never have to go to this house or anyone like it ever again. Let's start from the beginning. It was a normal Saturday night. We were busy as ever. I was doing fairly well on tips that night and walked up to the screen to check out my next run. I noticed it had one of those new customer indicators. It was a neighborhood I really didn't recognize. But that wasn't a big deal, as I hadn't lived in the area very long and mainly relied on my GPS to get me to my customers. I, as we always do, ignored the called in customer to confirm warning and checked out the order, bagging it up and putting it in the back seat of my car. I typed in the address into my GPS and grumbled as it did not find it in the system. I tried just the street and it came up easy enough. Satisfied, I started heading that way, clicking on my favorite horror story podcast to listen to, as the address was at the very edge of our delivery area, and I knew I was going to be on the road for a while. The drive itself was uneventful, the night was cool, and so I had my windows up and my heater running. As I wasn't supposed to smoke food in the car, one of the very few rules I followed is I wouldn't want cigarette-flavored pizza either. I dealt with the drive with just the podcast and heater sounds. It was closer to our closing time, so the traffic was sparse heading there. Once I got to the street, though, I looked down and I grumbled. Great. No street lights. Not a single porch light on down the entire road. And I'm guessing the numbers will be hard to see, too. And I was right. It seemed everyone used pitch black mailboxes with black numbers or something equally frustrating to read at night. The headlights on my car, even on bright, did little to help me navigate the street. I really needed to invest in a spotlight or a large flashlight. I'd been telling myself for weeks, but I was just too lazy to be bothered to actually do it. I went up and down the street searching for the address. After about 5 passes, I was about to give up and just call the customer when I nearly ran off the road as something large and black thudded into my windshield. I stopped on the side of the road to get a better look at what I had just struck. The fuck was all I could manage to say, as the black ball uncurled its legs and began creeping over my windshield. Most people would have lost their marbles right then and there, as the spider, about the size of an adult male hand, made its way down my window onto the hood. I, on the other hand, already own a tarantula, and large spiders did nothing more than intrigue me. I sat transfixed, watching its careful movements on my hood, though I could not quite make out the species. With its size, I thought it to be another tarantula, but there were none indigenous to the region. Granted, we had black widows and recluses, but this didn't look to be an orb weaver, and its legs and body were just too large. Pulling my cell phone out, I hit the flashlight app and opened my door, shining in on the critter. Damnedest thing, though. The thing moved away from the light, as quick as any spider going after prey. Every time I tried to get a good look at it, it just moved so the light never fully touched it. I tried it for a couple minutes, then gave up, knowing my customer was going to be pissed if I kept this up. So I just used the light to chase it off my car and back onto the grass off the road. Looking up, I blinked as the mailbox I was in front of read 9413. The house I was supposed to go to, but couldn't seem to locate it in the many passes down the street. The house itself seemed pretty ordinary. Even with no porch light on, nothing ominous or eerie came to me. No chills down the spine or goosebumps you always hear about when things are about to go badly in a horror story or creep show. I grabbed the hot bag and started up the short drive. Reaching the front door, I knocked a few times. There were lights on inside, which relieved me somewhat, as the darkness on the entire street was a bit oppressive. Not one house had a light on, at least no lights I could see from here. This is when the first odd occurrence of the night happened. As I knocked, it went silent. I mean really silent. No insects, no nocturnal birds or critters, nothing. Just the occasional thump, thump, thump of my knockings on the door. I was on my third set and about to go back to my car when I heard floorboards creak inside and multiple locks being disengaged. Sigh in relief that this was not a prank, as a minuscule delivery VS drivers got on each run would not cover the gas I was wasting to get out here. The door opened with no sound and a woman in her mid-30s answered. She was attractive, but not overly so, with steel gray eyes and short-cut brown hair. She had small curves and a knowing smile. Her skin, though, seemed a bit pale, even for someone who never left the house. I shrugged it off, though, as she didn't seem drunk, high on drugs, or remotely threatening at all. And being pale was pretty normal for winter, I guess.
Hello,
she said in a sing-song voice. Evening, ma'am, I said, pulling the items from the hot bag. Here are your items. That'll be $25.17. As I handed her the pizzas, I pulled my hand back quickly, nearly sending her food to the floor before she caught hold as a very recognizable spider rappelled down the ceiling almost on my arm. A black widow with spidery legs spread out as she was coming down, looking like she was trying to land on me before I moved. This confused me for two reasons. One, spiders generally avoided large animals like people, tending to shy away from things that'll kill it. And two, it was nearly December, and it frosted a few times already. Most, if not all, insects and arachnids should be either dead or gone aground for the season. The woman oddly did not bat an eyelash. Most people would be climbing up the walls to get away from the spider, yet she did not seem to even need its presence as she pulled a bill from her purse.
do you have any change for 100?
She asked, causing me to groan internally. Seriously, people, what pizza place ever in history has taken $100 bill unless your order was close to that amount? No, ma'am. For the safety of the drivers, we're not allowed to carry more than $20 cash on us. I'm sorry. I tried to put my fake it till you make it charm into my reply.
Okay, give me a moment. I'll have to go get something smaller out of my room. I'll only be a moment.
Take your time, ma'am. I gave a wary eye to the widow, who had now rappelled to the floor and made its way inside, which the lady again took no interest in. She was either a spider lover, or oblivious as all get out, I concluded. She turned and left the door open, walking upstairs, giving me a great view of her swinging hips, which now seemed to be a bit exaggerated as she walked away, shimmying side to side in great swaths. Freaky spider girl trying to seduce me into a pizza porno. I chuckled to myself when I thought her to be out of earshot. Just as I finished laughing, I noticed movement on my right. Looking over, I had to bite my lip from yelping out, as inches from my head another spider dangled. This one looked similar to the widow that had been there a moment ago, but the light from within revealed it all to be red. Thought those were limited to Florida, I said, while moving away from it. As I did, I heard a crunch and grimace. I normally make it a habit not to kill spiders unless given no choice, but looking down as I had feared, a gob of goo and a mass of crumpled legs revealed itself under my foot. Sorry, bud. Honestly, didn't mean to. At this point, though, I started to back off the porch. That many spiders in less than 2 minutes had me a bit weirded out. As I turned to step off the porch, I was greeted by 6 more spiders gliding down from silken strings, spindly legs stretching out like claws to greet and gain purchase on me. Jesus. Okay, I like spiders and all, but this is a bit too much. I used the delivery bag to brush them aside and step off the porch quickly, watching for any more that might be dropping from the roof. Ma'am? Are you okay in there? I called, as it had been more than a few minutes now since she went back inside. More than enough to grab a couple bills and come back. I felt a tickle on my pant leg and looked down to see yet another large spider crawling up my leg. This one nearly the size of a critter that hit my windshield. Small, beady eyes glinting in the moon's glow. Fuck, I yelled and brushed it off. That's when I looked down and panic welled up within me. The ground around me was starting to move like it was water, as scores of eight-legged critters came out of the grass and up on the walkway. All manner of spiders were coalescing into the walkway and heading right for me. Now, I'm not ashamed to admit at this point I screamed like a girl and started running for my car. Put yourself in my shoes. Pitch black, only the moonlight and small amount of light from the open door to see by, and you literally see the ground moving around you. Not in an earthquake, but more spiders than you will ever see at once in your life, coming straight towards you like a flowing river of writhing black. How exactly would you react? Well, I ran like Forrest Gump to my car. Money be damned, I wanted the fuck out of there right now. As I reached my car, I used the driveway to turn around and get out. My horror only intensified as my headlights hit the home. The thing was literally covered in spiders. So much so, the house itself seemed to be alive and writhing as the creatures moved about it. Thousands of the creatures skittered and writhing over the windows and the home itself. The light from the door was starting to wane as spiders slowly slid down silky strands of the web in front of it. And the woman stood behind the curtain of horror, twisted grin on her face, as the creatures made her way for stepping onto the porch and started to move towards the car. How I missed this up on my walk up here was a mystery to me. I think something like a house covered entirely in spiders would have caught my fuck right off radar, and I would have just gone back saying they were not home. I wasted no time reversing and turning around and flooring it away from that dead arachnid horror. I made it back to the store and told my manager that I'd given the customer the pizza. They tried to pay with $100, and when I refused, they walked inside and never came back out. He called the police and filed a report as lady had technically stolen the pizza. I did fail to mention the den of horror the home had been. I then had an officer interview me, and we waited while another officer was sent to the home. His radio clicked and some odd numbers from another voice, and he excused himself and went outside. After a few minutes, he came back in and looked at me with a look of confusion on his face.
What did you say the occupant looked like again, sir?
The officer asked with some trepidation, and I described her to him, and he arched a brow, leading me to ask, "What? What's going on?" I asked as my stomach slowly started to drop below my knees.
Well, the house has been vacant for a few years by the looks of it, and according to the officer we sent out, a body was found upstairs in a bedroom.
Whoa, I swear I didn't lay a hand on her, officer.
No, she'd been dead for some time. Seems to have been at least by the condition of her body. We will not know until the medical examiner gets through with an autopsy. Are you sure that is what the woman you spoke to looked like?
Yeah, she was even flirting with me. Her voice had a sing-song quality to it.
Well, must have been a squatter or something, as the woman in that room had been dead for some time, as I mentioned.
How did I not smell anything? Don't bodies start to smell pretty bad after a while?
No idea. Like I said, we will not know anything more until the autopsy and examinations are completed. Just be glad you were not robbed. An abandoned house and dark unlit roads are a perfect setup for an ambush and robbery.
The officer thanked me for my information, taking my number down, letting me know they would be in contact if they needed any more information. I, though, was curious. Not curious enough to go back into the house, hell no, but curious to who the hell I gave the pizzas to. As he said, the dead woman matched the description I gave. I was teased for a few days about delivering to the ghost girl. He even asked if I Dan Aykroyded it up with here a la Ghostbusters. I mainly ignored these and went about my routine. Then I got a call from a friend of mine who worked in the medical examiner's office. I hadn't even told her about my incident, and she was notorious for giving me shit over the smallest thing. And the hell my coworkers had put me through would be nothing compared to her jobs.
Hey, you gotta hear this. Strangest goddamn thing I've seen since I started working here.
She chattered, excitement obvious in her tone. What's up? I asked, intrigued as the coroner with a strange story had to be good.
So, we had this lady brought in, dead, obviously. That's nothing new. But here's where it gets freaky. Her insides were gone, and not a drop of blood in her body. It's like someone drained her and removed every organ without even cutting her open.
Okay, that's definitely odd, I responded, that familiar chill running down my spine.
No, that's not even close to the odd part. The first examiner had to be taken to the hospital for toxic shock.
Wait, what? Terrorists or something? There had to be some nasty shit hiding inside of her.
No, not even close. Well, unless terrorists have figured out how to weaponize spiders.
My heart dropped into my stomach as she continued on.
Yeah, he started to cut her open and a bunch of spiders just came out of her body and attacked him. I thought you said spiders normally do not attack people.
They don't, unless threatened, I said, half-heartedly, my mind going back to the night when all the spiders seemed to be trying to come at me instead of away. And now I knew who this woman she was talking about was.
Well, after he was bitten over 20 times, luckily he's in a hospital, or he probably would have died. Regardless, that is not all the oddities of this corpse. After it was quarantined and checked for any more spiders, we were given the all clear and resumed the autopsy. And what we found, I literally have no explanation. As I said, her insides were drained and gone, but her entire body was lined in spider webs. I mean, from head to toe inside her body. If I didn't know any better by looking at the way the webs were inside, I would say it was a setup to puppet the body around. You know, the webs acting as controls.
My head was spinning. As I recall the brief interaction I had with the lady, she had seemed fluid enough, even fluid enough to add a little shake and shimmy to her walk. Then I really thought about it as if I was looking at my tarantula in her aquarium. As she walked around, her abdomen was shaking and shimmying from left to right. She was laying out webs. I recalled her hips sway while watching my spider and noticed eerie similarities in the two. I also recall most spiders liquefy the insides of their prey, organs and all, to feed off of them. They more drink than they do eat. Holy shit, I said out loud, not meaning to, as the thoughts were starting to piece together in my head.
I know, right? Anyhow, I gotta go. I'll tell you more about it on D&D night Monday.
Yeah, sure, I numbly responded, half listening to her and half thinking of the impossible. Were they really have puppeted her around like that so flawlessly that I hadn't even realized it? Was it a really complicated trapdoor that some spiders use to catch prey? Regardless, I was now freaked because not only had she moved and acted like a person, but she spoke. Honest to goodness words. I don't have any answers for y'all, nor do I even have the slightest idea of what happened to all the spiders that were gathered out on that property, as none of the first responding officers were attacked at all. No one even claimed to see a spider until my friend called me and gave me the news about her odd day. The only wild idea I have come up with is creatures to adapt to the world around them just like humans do. Perhaps in a sick twist of fate, some adaptation have given the spiders the ability to mimic the one thing that threatens them more than any insect or predator, and therefore trap and kill and eat it. If that is the case, which I really hope it's not, we are fucked. Well and truly fucked. The last thing that has me on edge is now every time I'm in my room, no matter what my tarantula is doing, even if she's eating, she stops and comes over to the glass closest to me and just stares, unmoving for hours. She's doing it right now as I'm writing this. She follows me in every direction too until I'm gone. I refuse to try and pick her up anymore, as I'm now afraid she may attack me. The way she just sits there is creepy. But I've had her so long now, my wife would be angry if we just got rid of her, so I deal with it and try my best to ignore her. I've also noticed more spiders around my home now, but every time I try and get close to them, put them outside, they skitter away, something they normally do not do until I'm trying to put them in a container. I always feel like I'm being watched, though luckily nothing has happened to me when I sleep, at least not yet anyways. Animals though, especially smaller ones like cats and small dogs, have been disappearing from the neighborhood, and people are starting to suspect coyotes or even malicious kids. I, on the other hand, am worried that those animals are just the beginning, and those spiders have not forgotten about me. I think I'm gonna move soon, though I don't know how much that'll help. For every acre, there are at least 1,000,000 spiders, most scientists believe. So no matter where I go, I'll never be far from one. I just hope not all of them have the mindset that the ones in the area I'm living in do. As I said earlier, we all may be in more danger than you think. So if you ever go to a home as a delivery driver, or any other capacity that has you going house to house, if you see an abundance of spiders, do yourself a favor and just go. I think those things wanted me for their next meal, and I would hate for any other house callers like me to end up like that poor lady from 9413. But this is more of a widespread thing, or starts to be. Just be wary if you see a lot of spiders. You never know, they could be making a new puppet, or already have one and are trying to lure in their next meal.